Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to another Decentering Men episode. If you're new to this channel, I have over 25 videos on this topic, so you're really going to like this channel if you like my Decentering Men talking points. So today we're going to talk about the nuances of decentering men, and we're going to be talking about where you fall on the decentering men spectrum, because I actually believe that decentering men is an entire spectrum. I actually believe that there are many different ways to decenter men. I think that depending on your culture, depending on what country you live in, your financial situation, things like that will influence how your decentering men journey is going to go. So to me, decentering men is about taking their opinions off the pedestal. It's about taking a man off of the pedestal, taking anything that involves a man off of the pedestal. So that means having children with a man, taking that off the pedestal, getting married to a man, taking that off the pedestal, being picked by a man for a relationship, for sex, or whatever, taking all of those things off the pedestal. I believe that that is really the first step to decentering men. But when you look at a lot of the content creators on YouTube, there's the hypergamy niche. So those are the women who talk about, I call it decentering dusties. I believe that their core talking point is really about decentering dusty men, decentering 50-50 relationships. And I think that those are definitely a part of the decentering men journey, because watching those channels and thinking about it from that perspective, it really helps you to take your power back. And the thing that I like about the hypergamy style content is they help you to realize that a man's value is not just emotional. It's not, well, first of all, my opinion is that a lot of them are not even emotionally intelligent to begin with. But once you take his feelings towards you out of the picture, what's left? What does he have to offer you after that? Is he increasing your lifestyle or is he diminishing it? So, in my opinion, I guess I would call that kind of the first step into the decentering men journey. It's realizing that most of the men that you have placed on a pedestal throughout your lifetime have been dusties. Most of them were 50-50 men. The guy you used to have a crush on in high school, the guy you probably had a crush on in college, whoever your ex-boyfriend was, your ex-husband. Hypergamy channels help you to realize that you have spent the majority of your life with dusties or with 50-50 men, even if that man is rich. Even if you look at like Gabrielle Union's marriage, she is in a 50-50 marriage with a rich man. So the hypergamy channels really do a good job at highlighting how much dating a guy and how much that stress did not help improve your lifestyle. So I would say that is the nuance that the hypergamy channels bring to the decentering men conversation. They talk a lot about how the average man doesn't even make enough money to sustain a family or to, be an attractive life partner to you. The average man, even if he makes $150,000, that might be great for one person. That might be pretty good for two people, but for 3, 4, and 5 people, that money is going to run out very quickly. And so that is the nuance that the hypergamy channels bring to the decentering men conversation. They help you to realize that most of the men you have encountered have been dusties anyway. So there's no reason for you to feel like it's a loss. Hypergamy channels do a really good job at helping you to not feel like you lost anything if you were in a relationship with these dusty men. It really helps you to kind of get over those traumas that you may have experienced in the past. And also, hypergamy channels do a good job of letting you know that if you tie yourself to a man who is underprivileged, you are going to live a life that is underprivileged, and your children will live a life that's underprivileged. So hypergamy channels do a really good job of pointing that out. They also bring nuance to the decentering men conversation because they help you to decenter men's dating standards, and they help you to center your own dating standards. They help you to realize, wait a minute, I don't just want any man. I want a man who has a good job, a guy who's emotionally intelligent, a guy who is, he treats me well, he's loyal, he's faithful. I would say hypergamy channels are good when it comes to being unapologetic about creating your own dating standards and being ruthless with your time and energy and effort, and not caring about rejecting a man who doesn't meet those standards. Because hypergamy channels will teach you that if you get a man who is below your standards, or he only meets maybe 1 out of 10 of your standards, you're going to be miserable anyway, so you might as well not waste your time. That is where hypergamy channels really bring a good nuance to the decentering men conversation. They also do a good job at teaching you that you are worthy of receiving gifts. You're worthy of being treated special. You're worthy of being wined and dined. They help you to just take back your own standards, or to create standards for yourself. They help you to realize that it's okay to want to go to a nice restaurant. It's okay to want the finer things in life and to want the luxuries in life. Another niche on YouTube that brings nuance to the decentering men conversation is the divestment niche. By the way, you guys have probably heard me bring smoke to just about every niche on YouTube, including my own self, including this channel. I bring smoke to even myself sometimes. But the divestment niche actually does a good job at helping women who are black male centered. It helps you to decenter black men's opinions of your beauty. It helps you to decenter their admiration of you. It helps you to decenter their opinions of your self-worth. And it helps you to realize that a lot of the men who may not have approved of you, it's because they didn't approve of themselves. So because they hated themselves, maybe that's part of what made them hate you. So I would say that the divestment channels, they do a good job of helping women who have been insecure about their blackness. They help those women to take back their self-esteem that has been destroyed by black men in the past. They help black women to not hate their black features, because some black men, they also make fun of maybe if you have black features, or, maybe you don't meet their beauty standard. So I would say it helps black women who feel like they are ugly, or women who feel like they don't meet the black beauty standard. It helps those women to realize that they are beautiful, that they are worthy of love, and that they are worth being treated special. And it takes the power out of black men's hands in particular. So it helps women to realize that you can find love outside of a black man. I would say that's the nuance that divestment channels bring to the decentering men conversation. They are primarily helping you to decenter black men. They point out a lot of the hypocrisy that you see in terms of black men dating, like who they really choose and all that stuff. So they're pointing out the hypocrisy to help you to not pedestalize them anymore. So divestment channels, I would say that that's the nuance they bring with decentering men. It's really about decentering black men, not centering your whole dating life around them. So not like only swiping on black men on dating apps and stuff, or like hoping that a black man asks you out on the date. Divestment channels, they are trying to get women to kind of open their options up more. So the smoke that I do have for the divestment movement is I do think that sometimes some of those channels can get a little bit extreme, because some of them seem to imply that if a man is non-black, that somehow that's going to make it better. But that's okay, because I still consider divestment to still be one of the beginning stages of the decentering men movement, similar to hypergamy. So both of them are necessary, because if you are black male centered, or if you are dusty male centered, then those channels will really do a fantastic job of helping you to break out of those mindsets. The third niche that I can think of on YouTube that is also bringing nuance to the decentering men conversation is the people who talk about dating strategies. So these are the women who talk about how you should do roster dating. They talk about freestyling. They talk about where to meet these wealthy men. They talk about how you shouldn't just be texting and calling him all the time, because you don't want to waste all of your free energy and resources on a man who you may never see again, or a man who you may never meet up with. So those women's nuance that they bring to the decentering men conversation is they help women to not focus their whole dating life around one man, because they kind of teach you to like not just date one man at a time, because they understand the fickle nature of men. They understand that, about 1 in 5 men that you text, he's going to end up ghosting you, or, one of them is going to be married. The other one is a dusty. The other one is, he doesn't look like his pictures. So they are trying to help you to play the numbers game and to play the options game so that you have the advantage. By the way, this video is where we're talking about where you fall on the decentering men spectrum. So these three things that I just mentioned, the hypergamy side of it, the divestment side of it, the dating strategy side of it, these are all stages in the decentering men spectrum, in my opinion. So the dating strategy girls, they are trying to help you to take your time back. They want you to be able to better manage your time and spend more of your personal time on developing yourself and developing your own sense of growth, as opposed to, texting and calling a guy and he's not even calling you back, and you're trying to like message his phone, you're driving in front of his house and stuff, you're trying to follow him and see where he's going. The dating strategy niche on YouTube is to help women to center their own time and to center themselves in terms of their level up journey, and to not waste so much time in the dating market, and to not waste so much time being frustrated with being disappointed by all of these men, because their premise is that if you were dating, 5 or 6 guys, if one of them screws up, you still have 5 or 6 other guys there. And, you have this whole orbit of guys to the point where if one of them disappears, you don't feel as hurt because you were not centering your whole entire dating life around that guy to begin with. So it's kind of like decentering monogamous dating, for lack of better words. It's kind of promoting casual dating as a way to stop hyper-focusing on one guy who may or may not be a waste of your time. And by the way, when it comes to all of these different perspectives and all of these parts of the decentering men movement and kind of like how you're making it work for yourself, there actually is no wrong answer. So if you feel like divestment's the best for you, if you feel like hypergamy is the best for you, there is no wrong answer. I'm just trying to help you guys to understand if you can still be decentered from men and follow one of these movements. So the way that I did it on my decentering men journey was I had to decide, like, what do I want out of men, if anything? Do you want a relationship? Do you want a boyfriend? Do you want just friends with benefits? Do you want something casual? Do you want marriage and children? So the different movements on YouTube will contribute to your life differently depending on what your actual agenda is. I think that a part of the reason why some women can get confused about decentering men is because they have not decided what they still want out of men, even while decentering them. Because there are some women who they're going to go all the way to the end of the spectrum, which is lesbianism or being asexual or, being celibate. So some women go all the way to the end of the decentering men spectrum to where they're like, I'm not interacting with them whatsoever. But then there are so many other women who I still consider to be decentered from men, but they just happen to fall somewhere else on this spectrum. Because maybe you have kids, maybe you do want a 2-income household or something, or maybe I don't know. There are people who have different goals and dreams. So I'm not shaming anyone. There is no wrong answer. So the question you want to ask yourself is, what are my decentering men goals? Is my goal simply to be more confident when I'm in the dating market? Is my goal to get out of the dating market? Is my goal to get over a breakup? Am I trying to heal some traumas? Is my goal to heal my past insecurities that came from men that I didn't even realize came from men? Because I've noticed that the further you go into the nuances of decentering men, the more you will begin to unpack how your insecurities were tied to men. Because for a lot of women, your first insecurities about your physical appearance may come from your father. Maybe your father told you, your stomach is too big, it's hanging out of your pants, like, why do you look so big, or something like that. So I think that the more you get into the decentering men movement, the more nuances you will begin to see. But another spin-off from the hypergamy movement is, I guess I would just call this the sugar baby movement, or emphasis on transactional relationships, because there are some women who maybe they are struggling financially, or they like the financial benefits of being with a particular type of man. And so they have taken out the emotional needs. So they have no more emotional needs from a man. They don't need anything emotionally from him whatsoever. So they're not looking for his love. They're not looking for his affection or his attention, his admiration, his loyalty, his faithfulness. They're not looking for that. They simply just wanted the money side of it. So that is the nuance that the sugar babying YouTube channels are going to bring to the decentering men conversation, because the relationship is literally no longer about you and the man. It is now about you and your money, and the guy is kind of just a means to an end. So that's another nuance that I've seen in terms of the Decentering Men movement. So you're decentering the man emotionally and physically, but you are not decentering him financially because you still want access to his finances. And you feel like your life is better with access to his finances as opposed to if you were just by yourself and you didn't have a guy, a boyfriend or a sugar daddy or whatever. One of the other nuances of the decentering men conversation is decentering men emotionally. So this is where you'll start to see content where they're talking about reparenting yourself. I have discussed that on this channel, kind of like if you didn't have a good father figure or you didn't have a strong man in your life, it's learning how to do that for yourself. So learning how to protect yourself, learning how to provide for yourself, learning how to discipline yourself, learning how to comfort yourself, all of the things that you used to be seeking from a man emotionally, all of those voids that you were seeking to fill you, you begin seeking those things within yourself. So a lot of people talk crap about that movement and they call it kind of the strong, independent woman movement. But I personally don't think that it's about strength. I really think it's about just healing those old insecurities and voids that you were chasing a man to fill or that you were looking for a man to fill. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that when you are roster dating, when you're out freestyling, when you're going to these bars, when you are trying to get chosen by these high value men, you are going to experience emotional letdowns along the way. You are going to experience disappointments along the way. For example, let's say you're roster dating, you date 5 guys, and all 5 of them turn out to be trash. Now you just collected 5 negative emotional experiences that are now embedded in your psyche. So this is where women begin to decenter men emotionally. They begin to stop tying their happiness to a man. They begin to stop tying their sense of fulfillment to a man, whether it's financially, whether it's sexually, whether it's socially or emotionally. So this is where you see the videos where people talk about men's emotional state, or how, like some people even say that they're not capable of love or they're not capable of monogamy. So they begin to dismantle all of the stuff you have been told about men your whole life. So I would say that's more like you are emotionally decentering men at that point. So it's not just you are dating multiple men, so you're not as emotionally attached. No, now you have completely almost emotionally detached from them as a whole, or like you kind of understand them as a gender, or you feel like you understand the negative sides of them as a whole. And so this causes you to interact with them differently. So you no longer have the expectation of, I'm going to roster date and then I'm going to find the love of my life via roster dating, or I'm going to date hypergamously and then I'm going to find the hypergamous marriage of my dreams. You no longer have those dreams anymore. So kind of those dreams that the hypergamous girls may have, or that the roster dating girls may have, or, the sugar baby girls and stuff. Maybe you are not interested in being a sex worker, or you're not interested in sugaring, or kind of like having to pretend like you like this guy and stuff so that you can get the money. So this is where you begin to dismantle all of it altogether, and you just start reprioritizing your social needs altogether. So what I've seemed to notice is that hypergamy seems to focus on maybe meeting your financial needs as a priority. I've noticed that divestment seems to focus on healing insecurities around your ethnicity. Sugaring also seems to prioritize centering your financial needs most and using the guy as kind of a means to an end. And then when you get to the part where you're kind of decentering them emotionally, it seems to be more about healing your own emotional traumas around men and finding different ways to fulfill those emotional voids without men. So again, part of the decentering journey for you is going to be asking yourself, what do I need out of a man? Like, even if let's say I meet all of my decentering men goals and I'm like perfectly confident, perfectly, everything's fine in my life. I have all the money that I could ever have. Do I need a man for anything else? And by the way, there's no wrong answer. I don't shame people because everybody has different needs. What do you need a man for? Do you want, even if you are decentered, do you need him for money? Do you want him for money? Like, what do you need or want a man for? Do you want him for sex still? Do you want him for money? Do you want him for companionship? Do you want him for validation? There is no wrong answer. I'm not shaming people. Do you want him for something else? Like, what are the reasons that you still want him? I feel like that is one of the nuances of the decentering men journey. It's asking yourself, and by the way, you don't have to tell others this, because some women, they do kind of try to police you like, oh, well, that's not decentering men because you're still dating him. You're still a sugar baby or whatever. You're still a sex worker. You're male centered. I don't like shaming women on this channel who make different decisions than me, but you do want to decide within yourself, what do I want a man for? What do I need a man for? Is there any part of my life where I feel like it will be unfulfilled if I do not have a man? For most of us, it's probably going to be maybe the sexual part, if you like having sex with men. I do talk about the orgasm gap on this channel and how a lot of women who, even though they might have a boyfriend and be having sex, they're not actually having orgasms, or they're not having as many orgasms as the man. So I actually feel like a lot of women seem to have more emotional needs that they are getting filled in their relationship rather than sexual needs. So you get to ask yourself, what do I need from a man still? Even if I'm decentered, what part of a man do I enjoy still? Or what part of a man did I enjoy the most? What part of a man did I want the most? And was that worth it for me? Was it worth it to have him compliment me or to have him buy me a necklace? What are the parts of a man that I still would like to have in my life, if any? And like I said, there is no wrong answer, because some of you in the comment section are going to say, oh, I still want the sex part, or I still want the casual dating. I like how it feels to have a roster of guys. Then I can call up any guy at any time and he can come help me move my stuff, or he can do this and that for me. He can like run errands for me and stuff. So each woman is going to have a different answer, and that's going to determine what types of content kind of resonates with you the most. That's going to help you determine what types of stuff you should be learning, because it's all about just centering your own self and your personal goals, as opposed to constantly trying to jump through hoops, centering yourself around the man. But another part of decentering men emotionally is giving up any dreams that were attached to a man. So like, for example, the ChildFree Movement, I would say, is a spin-off of this. And it kind of brings nuance to the Decentering Men movement, because you're like, wait a minute. After doing my research and after thinking about it and stuff, I actually don't want children. And so now my desire for a man has gone down. Or, hey, after I thought about it, it turns out I really just wanted the money, or I really just wanted to have a big house. And now that I have leveled up my finances and I purchased my own house, now I don't have as strong of a desire for a man. And then for others, you may realize, hey, the main thing I wanted was to be treated special. I know this is the case for me. The main thing I wanted was to be treated special, and I wanted someone to be loyal to me, faithful to me, monogamous, etc. But now that I've realized the nature of a lot of men statistically, I realize that that is damn near impossible for him to be monogamous, loyal, faithful, attractive, lives in my same city, has the same hobbies and interests as me. He's emotionally intelligent, emotionally available. He also doesn't pressure me to have kids because I'm also child-free, and he's not a misogynist. So it's starting to decenter them emotionally, because you've realized that what you've been wanting your whole life doesn't actually exist, or the type of love you wanted from him does not exist. So you actually have no choice but to now emotionally decenter them and decenter that fantasy of wanting that romantic, long-lasting love. Oh, by the way, side note, you know how they talk about the trad wife movement online? The girls that are like, oh, I have such a great marriage, and like, I love being a stay-at-home mom. My man protects and provides. We have a great marriage. Have you ever noticed that there are no older women promoting that lifestyle? I've never seen a 75-year-old woman who's promoting the trad wife lifestyle. Like, hey, I've been a stay-at-home homemaker for the past 50 years, and I really loved every minute of it, and I really loved being with my husband. And that's because, in my opinion, even if you are a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, I actually don't think that that is very fulfilling for a lot of women long-term. And so a lot of women, they are not able to get their emotional needs met by simply cooking and cleaning every day for the rest of their lives. Like, that doesn't sound emotionally fulfilling. If it is for you, then by all means, do that. Keep doing that. But I've noticed that there is a threshold in the Decentering Men movement where if you feel like you are kind of crossing the threshold of having to decenter them emotionally because, centering them emotionally has caused you so much trauma in the past, or you realize that they cannot meet your emotional needs like how you thought they could, that is where the child-free movement comes into play. That's where people start talking about like lat relationships, which is living apart together. So maybe you just have a boyfriend and you don't live with him, and you don't take it past a certain point. So you can have a boyfriend, you can have the companionship part, you can go on the dates, you can do the sex part, you can flirt with each other, whatever, but you don't take it past a certain point. You don't center your life and finances around him. You don't move in with him. You don't marry him, have his kids, tie yourself to him, change your name, change your last name for him and all that. So I've noticed that is another nuance to the decentering men conversation. It's kind of the child-free movement, the marriage-free movement, the women who are talking about just remaining single and just having fun, kind of the hot girl summer type of things with like the women who they will deal with men on a more casual basis. So I guess I would call it a non-permanent relationship with a man. So you're good with maybe being in a 6-month relationship, or you're good with a summer fling. Like I have a friend, she likes having summer flings. She likes, she'll go somewhere for the summer, or she'll have some guy in Jamaica or something. So some women, they like having summer flings. Others just like short-term casual roster dating permanently, and they will continue to have a roster of guys around them casually. And, that meets their social needs with men or their validation needs. Like I said, there's no wrong answer. I don't shame women on this channel for wanting validation or for, feeling validated by anything, because there's actually nothing wrong with giving or receiving validation as long as you're not harming yourself or others. But there are some women who, they just like the casual dating forever, or they just want to, they only like the honeymoon phase of a relationship. So they've decentered men altogether, except they just want the honeymoon part of a relationship. So maybe they'll do kind of shorter term relationships, or, I'll have a boyfriend for a year, or I'll have a boyfriend for 5 years, or I won't have a boyfriend at all. I'll just stay single forever and just casually date or have fun. Whoever I want to sleep with, I will, or I can just go along the next part of the decentering men spectrum, which is decentering them emotionally, physically, like sexually as well. So these are the women who literally turn gay, or I don't know if that's a thing, turning gay, but these are the women who they decide to date women, or they decide to become asexual. They decide to become celibate because they are actually decentering men sexually. These are the women who they would literally rather have a toy that they ordered on Amazon versus having a guy because it's less stress. These are also the women who, instead of the relationship part, they will just join like some sort of hookup app or something, and then they'll just like hook up with whatever guys they feel compatible with, and that's it. And they don't actually have any emotional connection to him at all. They're just kind of like, they only want the sex part. But that's another part of the decentering men spectrum. Another thing that I've seen is decentering men spiritually. So these are women who they don't want to be a part of male-centered religions anymore. So no more worshiping Jesus or God or Allah or any masculine deities, because they feel that those religions harm their womanhood or harm their femininity, or they feel like those religions devalue femininity, or they devalue the woman's position in the household or within that religion. And so they've decided to decenter those belief systems that they had when they were a child that were very male-centered, that made them believe, oh, your whole purpose as a woman is to marry a man and raise his children. So I'm making this video and talking about this topic because figuring out where you fall on the decentering men spectrum, that's going to be very important for your journey of decentering men, because you have to ask yourself why you want to decenter men. Is it because you're just trying to attract better men? Is it because, you're just, maybe you wanted marriage and you feel like decentering men will help you get closer to a marriage or something? Or is it that you're decentering men because you want to finally heal from maybe the insecurities that were caused by centering men? Like for me, I used to be very anti-plastic surgery. I used to be very anti-hair extensions, anti-makeup and stuff like that. And I didn't realize that those views were actually male-centered because of my religious background, being around those men who are like, oh, women who wear red lipstick, they're just trying to get attention, or women who get surgeries and stuff, they're trying to seduce men and that's why they're doing it. So you want to ask yourself, like, why am I decentering men? So for me, I began my decentering men journey because it really helped me to heal from like breakups or like previous traumas that I had. So I actually discovered the whole decentering men thing after I had realized that my previous relationship was causing me like anxiety symptoms and stuff. So I was on a journey of just trying to find a sense of peace and not making this a big stressor in my life, because at that time, relationships were like a really big stressor in my life. It really did bother me. Like if something bad happened with a guy, or like I went through a breakup, or I was fighting with a boyfriend or something, or I just wasn't getting my emotional or financial needs met in a relationship or whatever, those used to be really big things that would frustrate me in the past. And I used to feel like my life was not complete if this whole man part of it wasn't perfect. And so decentering men for me, it was really about finally finding freedom from placing those expectations on myself. And one of the side effects was I ended up having increased self-esteem. I ended up like feeling more free just in general. I felt more free to express myself and express my beauty however I wanted, because I didn't realize that a part of my actual personality was male-centered. So for example, I used to not curse in the past. And part of that was because I was raised Christian, and I was raised that men don't want a woman who does a lot of cursing and stuff. So that was literally the reason why I didn't curse. And because, people who curse, they come off as trashy and uneducated, and a classy man is not going to want a woman who sounds uneducated and trashy. So I didn't realize that even my language that I was using, or kind of like censoring myself and censoring parts of my personality, those things were actually male-centered. And so it was a whole journey for me of like decentering men's opinions of not just my appearance, but also their opinions of my personality, decentering their opinions of my standards, because I really feel like that's a part of what the hypergamy thing is. It's decentering men's opinions of your dating standards. So it's you adhering to a certain standard, saying, I'm only going to date a guy who is, I don't know, 6 foot, 6 figures, 6 inches, or whatever, whatever they try to say women's standards are, and then not caring what men think of that. And so no longer giving ugly guys a chance, no longer giving guys who you're not physically attracted to a chance. So you get to decide for yourself, what pieces of my life am I willing to give to a man? For some people, it's nothing. For some of us, it's like, I'm not willing to give anything. For others, it's, okay, I would be willing to date a guy if he meets XYZ standards. So you get to think about that on your own and determine how much of your life you want to spend on finding a man, or being found by a man. Because to me, it's really the same thing. When people try to say, oh no, it's not, I'm not chasing a man, the men are chasing me, but it's like, okay, but you're still putting yourself in a position to be chased. So it is still, you're putting an effort. You're putting on the makeup, you're putting on the clothes, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on beauty treatments, laser hair removal, waxes, surgeries, whatever. So you're still putting in effort either way. Whether you are chasing the man or you're putting yourself in the position to be chased, it's still effort. So how much of your life are you willing to spend doing that? Because remember that whatever you want has power over you because you desire it. So if you want a rich man, then you are technically, you don't realize it, but you are unconsciously giving rich men a sense of social power over you because you desire that man. You have a desire for him. So it's going to be more hurtful to you if a rich man ghosts you, or if a rich man insults you, or whatever. So you have to keep that in mind. Like whatever you desire the most, or whatever you are sexually attracted to, has social power over you, whether you realize it or not. So if you are one of those girls who has a fetish for, I don't know, big buff guys with dreads or something, then if that type of guy rejects you, it may be more hurtful. So the decentering movement is about you picking and choosing what you're willing to risk getting hurt by and what you are not willing to risk. And by the way, there is no wrong answer. For some women, they're not willing to risk getting hurt in any area at all. So some women are just like, you know what, I'm okay. I'll just be single for life and I'm content with that. And I'll just use my, sex toy or whatever. Some women do that. Other women are like, I'm willing to risk getting hurt if it means I have a chance with XYZ type of man. Other women are kind of like, if a guy wants to get in where he fits in my life and he is convenient for my lifestyle, then that's fine. But as soon as he becomes inconvenient, then I'm done. So those are more of the women who they tend to maybe date shorter term. So maybe they'll have a boyfriend for a couple years and then they'll break up with him. Then maybe a year later they get another boyfriend. Those types of women. And then there are some women who just want everything to be casual. Like, okay, I'll just date this guy or hook up with some guy on vacation or something, or go to those little festivals or whatever. I call them the passport chicks. I'm not shading anyone, but those are the women who they just do that. Maybe they go to a certain city or place and then they do whatever. So how far are you on the decentering men spectrum? Have you completely decentered them totally? Like they're physically decentered, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You don't want anything to do with them whatsoever. So you're one of those types. Or are you one of the types where it's like, I have mostly decentered them, or I feel like I've decentered them, but I still want a guy to be a small part of my life? Where are you on your decentering men journey? I don't put it on a hierarchy like, oh, if you're a celibate woman, then you're like higher up than all of the other people. You're more male decentered than everybody else, and that makes you better. I'm not like that. Decentering men is not supposed to be some sort of competition, like, oh, who hates men the most or something. That's not what it's supposed to be about. It's literally just supposed to be about you centering yourself and prioritizing your needs. It's not supposed to be like you're bitter or angry or whatever. Because there are pros and cons to every part of the spectrum. There are pros and cons to hypergamy. Because think about it. Rich men are pretty rare. Rich men who are attractive are even more rare. Rich men who are attractive and faithful are even more rare than that. So it's like if you're hypergamous, the con is that you're going to spend a lot more of your time in fantasy. Like you're going to spend a lot more of your mental energy on fantasies as opposed to having the reality of that quote unquote rich man right in front of you. So there are pros and cons to every single one. So for the women who, maybe you are just sleeping with guys casually or something, or you're somehow, or dating casually, maybe you're just going on dates or being taken out by guys. Maybe you're just being wined and dined and stuff like that. You may have the risk of one of those guys, he wants you to pay, or he wants you to go 50-50 suddenly when you are at the table, on the date. So that's a way that it can backfire. So no matter what you do, all of these things have pros and cons. So that's why I'm not trying to make it like one way of decentering men is better than another way, because I believe that women are smart, we know what we want, and so there are different ways that you can decenter them. For some women, they actually can have a guy in their life. They actually can be married to a guy and have kids and still feel like they are decentered from him. I don't know how you do that. I personally cannot do that because I can't. My level of trust for a guy would not go that deep to where it's like, oh, I trust him to like do XYZ for the rest of my life. I personally could not do that. But just because I feel like I couldn't do that or wouldn't want to do that, it doesn't mean that I should shame women who make different life choices than me. So you may want to ask yourself, like, what was the biggest need that I wanted to be met by men? Like, what caused me to center men in the first place? So for me, it was things like the validation. It was things like the companionship side of it, wanting the romance part of it, the whole Disney princess fairy tale thing. So now that you know that that is fake, or now that you know that that's only temporary, kind of those romantic feelings and all that, now what do you want to do? Are you willing to be in a temporary type of relationship, or are you willing to just give up on it altogether? Because I do feel like decentering men is a journey. So you may start off on one end of the spectrum, or you may start off doing things one way, and then you may decide later on, hey, you know what, that way isn't working for me of decentering men. That type of decentering isn't working. So now I want to try a different type of decentering. Maybe I don't want to talk to them at all. I'm just going to like be celibate for the next year and not interact with guys at all and just focus on myself, focus on my own level up journey. And like I said, there is no wrong way. For some of you guys, decentering men might mean only interacting with men from a distance. So I feel like I kind of sometimes dabble in that part of the spectrum where it's like, I enjoy the pretty privileged side of it. Like I enjoy when a guy gives me a free drink, or he buys something for me, or, he does a good deed towards me. I enjoy that part, but that's because he is at a distance from me emotionally. He's literally a stranger, or he's literally somebody I don't really know, or just a coworker, or just somebody that I'm probably never going to see again. So I'm able to enjoy the parts where it's more at a distance. But as far as having a very, very high level of emotional intimacy and financial intimacy and intertwining my finances with a man, intertwining my living space with a man, having an intimate living space together and like having this shared living space and all that, that for me, I know that I would not be able to do that while remaining decentered. For me, I feel like I would begin to center the guy because he literally, he lives in my house, or he lives right next to me. He sleeps in the same bed, and we have the same bank account. So for me personally, I would find it to be very difficult to not begin to center that type of relationship. So it's going to differ for everybody. So you want to ask yourself, what does decentering men mean for me? Does it mean that I no longer plan my time around them? So for example, I didn't realize that I used to be male-centered in terms of doing activities and vacations. So like if a guy didn't ask me on a vacation, I wasn't going to Brazil. If a guy didn't ask me to go to that new rooftop bar, I wasn't going to the rooftop bar. If a guy didn't ask me to go to the concert, I wouldn't go to the concert. So that was male-centered because I was not enjoying parts of life because a guy wasn't involved, or because a guy didn't take me, because I felt like, oh, it's better if a guy pays for it. It's better if a guy takes me rather than me taking myself to this nice restaurant. So that was a part of my personal decentering men journey, was giving myself my life back, taking my life back and saying, no, if I want to go to the concert, I'll go to the concert. If I want to go have a picnic by myself at the park, then I'll have a picnic by myself, or a picnic with family, a picnic with friends, go to a local picnic. Some cities have picnics where it's like the whole city is having a free one and you just show up and it's sponsored by a restaurant or something and they're giving out free samples. So you have to ask yourself, what does decentering men mean for me? What is the point of me doing this? Am I doing this so I can heal my self-esteem and bring back my confidence? If so, what was it that destroyed my confidence in the first place? Oh, it was the fact that he didn't treat me like I was special. Okay, so I'm decentering men because I am tired of not feeling treated special. And so that's my whole goal with decentering men, is I want to learn again how to treat myself in a way that's special, or how to still feel special without a guy. So you want to be able to explain it to yourself why you want to decenter men, what the whole purpose of it is for you, and what your goal is with decentering men. Is your goal to simply have freedom? Is your goal to no longer need them? Because that was my goal, was to no longer need a guy in my life in general. Like to be just as happy. My goal was literally to be just as happy single as opposed to only being happiest when I'm like with a boyfriend or something. I know that for me, another one of my goals was to not hinge my financial future upon a man. So not feeling like, oh shit, if my boyfriend breaks up with me or something, or if I get a divorce, then I'm going to be poor and financially struggling. No, I wanted to be so financially confident in myself to where I know, oh, I'm going to be fine if a guy's in my life or not. I'm going to be able to provide for myself so that if this guy F's up and I have to kick him to the curb, guess what? My life is still soft. It's not, oh, I'm going from the soft life to the hard life because, I was a stay-at-home trad wife and now at 56, he totally screwed me over. Now I have no retirement, a 10-year gap in my resume, 4 kids whose mouths need to be fed, and now I'm out of shape and I look bad and I look like shit and I can't even pay to get myself fixed up. So now I'm screwed and starting from scratch. My goal was, I don't want to ever have to feel like I'm starting over if a guy is not in my life. Because before, I felt like with breakups, it would have more of a vibe of, okay, I'm starting all over from scratch again. But it's like, why do I have to have that feeling in the first place? Why can't it just be, I am happy and content within myself to where if this guy is gone, I am still continuing on with my happy life. So I had a happy life before he was here, I had a happy life when he was here, and then I had a happy life after he was gone, as opposed to now I have to start over and like do this healing process and stuff, and like he left me with all these traumas and wounds. My goal with decentering men emotionally was to stop giving them the power to even cause the emotional wounds. It was to stop giving them the power to even traumatize me to begin with. to stop giving them the power to even crush my self-esteem. Take myself out of their presence. The moment that he does a red flag or does something that I feel is going to harm my self-esteem over time. My goal with Decentering Men was to take my power back, to take the power back over my own self-esteem, to take the power back over my own finances, to take back the power over my happiness, to take back those traumas, to kind of like erase those past negative memories that could have shaped who I was after the relationship is over. Like, to not let those guys win in the sense that he screwed me over, so now I'm all angry and bitter and sad or whatever, or, now I'm never going to have love. No, my goal was to be able to love myself just as good, if not better, than a man can ever love me. Because in my opinion, you're the only person that really can love yourself the best, because you live in your own mind. You know your thoughts, you know all of your memories, you know all of your emotions and feelings and stuff. So a man will actually never be able to love you as good as you love yourself. So my goal with Decentering Men was to be able to live that reality of loving myself better than anybody else in this world can. And so I know that as long as I've got myself, I will always feel loved. I will always feel nurtured. Because one thing that I noticed is that in the past, whenever I felt moments of loneliness, I wasn't actually lonely. I was just bored. I was not investing in my own life. I wasn't investing in making my life fun or, going out and doing things I wanted to do. I was holding myself back because there was not somebody next to me to enjoy those things with me. So Decentering Men for me was about taking back that power, taking my fun back, taking back the ability to enjoy life, whether there's a guy there or not, and genuinely being happy and being able to enjoy male presence from a distance if necessary. So, if a guy wants to buy me a free drink or be nice to me or something, or he compliments me, I take the compliment and then I move on. I do not start centering my life around the guy or think about that guy at work who complimented me, like, oh, does he like me? Or like none of that stuff anymore. The decentering journey for me was about coming into having maturity as opposed to living my life based on delusions and fantasies. The goal for me was to live my life in reality and make the best decisions that I can that are actually based on reality, not based on hopefulness, not based on, I hope that I can find a hypergamous marriage and he fits all my standards. I hope that I can find a Prince Charming who is, he meets all of my standards perfectly. No, it was to live based on reality and to stop living on a prayer, stop living on hope 24/7, because I notice that I just work better if I'm realistic, and then I can make myself happy in that reality. I've noticed that if I have hope and then my hopes are dashed, like I get disappointed and stuff, then that's actually worse than if I had not placed any expectations at all and was just enjoying myself without having those expectations. So for me, the Decentering Men journey was about no longer expecting and hoping for a guy to be this morally sound, this morally superior, upstanding, high value man. No longer expecting or hoping for that, but expecting myself to be those things for me. So instead of looking for a guy to constantly comfort me or make me feel beautiful or whatever, it was about me doing those things for myself. So me making myself feel beautiful instead of having a guy make me feel beautiful because he complimented me. No, it's me making myself feel beautiful because I put on my cute little sparkly eyeshadow today, or because I put on my favorite shirt that I love and it like hugs my body really nicely and I feel beautiful in this, as opposed to, oh, what does a guy find cute? What does a guy think is classy? What does he think is elegant? Okay, what would a rich man want me to be wearing right now? Okay, let me try to wear that. Another reason why I chose to decenter men is because being able to let go of a man, being able to let go of men altogether has been so empowering for me. It makes me feel so powerful to know that a man will never be able to crush me or crush my self-esteem or crush my happiness by leaving me or by cheating or whatever. He'll never be able to break me. Like in the past, it would be more like I'd be crying and stuff. I'd be all upset because I am grieving the loss of the delusions that I had about that man And also, I was grieving the loss of an entire future that I had envisioned with that man that I was with. So grieving the loss of, oh, our kids are going to be so cute. Nope, not having kids with him because he cheated. Or, oh, we're going to get married and then we're going to move here and then we're going to have this type of house. And then having to grieve that later on because it turns out that's not what's going to happen. So decentering men for me was about no longer having those fantasies to begin with. It's about removing all of the fantasies. So yes, some of you guys might feel like, oh, that takes out the fun. But my question is, if your fun in life comes from fantasizing about men, you're going to be set up for a lot of disappointment in your life. In fact, you're going to have a lot of trauma in your life. You're literally going to have PTSD if your idea of fun is fantasizing about men or living off of delusions about them in your mind. And you know how like you might have a crush on a guy and then you act out the scenario in your mind of him like walking up to you with flowers or him like, I don't know, seducing you or something, but then it never comes true. So it's the disappointment and the cognitive dissonance that builds up over time of it not being true in reality that I feel causes mental illness. So for me, the decentering men thing, it's about healing myself from any fantasies or unrealistic expectations of men and living in the reality of who men are or who they've proven themselves to be and making my reality, like setting up my reality to where I can benefit from it the most. So that's why earlier I was asking you guys, like, what are you looking for? What do you want from a man still, even after decentering men? Do you still want anything from a man? Because that means that, you're going to have to deal with the pros and cons of that desire for the rest of your life. Are you willing to deal with those pros and cons of, oh, he's looking at other women or, oh, he didn't text me back. So you get to decide. There's no right or wrong answer. But for me, one of the reasons why I also had decentered men was because it really did help me to get out of falling into those sadness, falling into those depressions or those disappointments after things didn't pan out how I thought they would. For me, decentering men was about no longer giving men a part of my identity. So, no longer building my self-esteem on having a man or having a boyfriend or having a rich man or having a white man, having XYZ type of man. No longer tying my self-esteem to that or comparing myself to other women based on what kind of man do I have and what kind of man does she have. It was about taking men off the pedestal because when the man is on the pedestal, he looks down on you because you're looking up at him. He's on the pedestal. And so taking them off the pedestal, it took away men's ability to look down on me. So it actually means nothing to me now. Like, how men try to say, you're a 6, or you hit the wall, or you're fat, or you're ugly, or you're this, you're that, you have gray hair, you have wrinkles, nobody wants you. Those comments, those types of comments used to be able to really hurt a lot of women because a lot of women did tie their self-worth and their beauty to what men thought of them, or what white men think, what black men think, what rich men think, what NFL players and powerful men think of me. A lot of women used to tie their self-esteem to that, but since going on the decentering journey, I know that it has really helped me to no longer be fazed by any of that because my identity and my self-worth and my idea of my own beauty is no longer directly tied to what men think of me. It was about no longer giving men a crucial place in my mind, like not circulating my thoughts around them or, planning my life around men, planning my life around, oh, so-and-so said he's going to call me at 9, so I have to make sure that I'm done working out by 9. Like literally, that's how I used to schedule my life. Okay, so-and-so said he was going to text me at this time, so, I have to make sure that I'm near my phone so that we can text back and forth. Oh, I have a FaceTime call with such and such guy, so I can't do anything else at that time. No, it's no longer giving them a crucial place and scheduling my time around myself, scheduling my time around my own level up journey, whatever that means to me. And I'm saying this because I'm trying to help you guys to start thinking about what would your life look like if men did not exist? If men didn't exist, would you be depressed? Because if so, that means you're male-centered. If men did not exist anymore starting tomorrow, would you be depressed? Would you feel like you're no longer pretty? Because that means that your self-esteem and your idea of your beauty is male-centered. If men did not exist starting tomorrow, how would you feel about your weight? Would you still feel the same insecurities about your weight, or would some of those insecurities go away? How would you feel about your skin tone? How would you feel about your blackness, your whiteness, your eye color, your facial features, your body shape? Having an hourglass versus having a ruler shape or whatever. How would you feel about those things? If men no longer existed starting tomorrow, would you be able to relax, or would you be sad because you feel like, the source of your validation and attention is now gone? Answering those questions will help you to realize how male-centered you are. And by the way, like I said, no shame or anything like that, because I'm talking to myself here too. And I'm also not perfect on my decentering men journey either. But answering those questions will help you to gauge how male-centered your self-esteem is. If men didn't exist starting tomorrow, would you still want to go out to bars and clubs and, just go out and about and be seen and, I don't know, just go to restaurants and stuff? Would you still want to do those things? Or would you be more like, okay, I'm cool, I'll just chill at home? Because answering those questions is going to help you to, number one, realize how male-centered you are, and number two, it's going to help you to realize how much of your life fulfillment was coming from men, whether it was directly or indirectly. Because the more of your life's validation and fulfillment comes from men, the more male-centered you're going to be, which means the more power men are going to have over you. But one of the main things about the Decentering Men movement that all of these different niches on YouTube have in common is emotional detachment. It is, not centering your emotions so much around a man. So whether you are still dating, whether you're roster dating, whether you're not dating at all, it's about taking back power over your own emotions, not allowing men to get you riled up, not allowing him to make you overly excited, and also not allowing him to make you overly sad if something doesn't work out. The Decentering Men movement is about questioning all of the beliefs that you grew up thinking about men, questioning all of the things that you've been taught, and even questioning your view of yourself and how the male gaze has influenced that, or how men's opinions have influenced your perception of yourself. That is really what Decentering Men means to me. It's about going through every single one of my beliefs one by one and then asking myself, is it a man that taught me that? Did a man teach me that my whole purpose in life was to serve a male god and marry a man and then birth his children and, be fruitful and multiply and then submit to him? Did a man teach me that? Where did those opinions come from? Did it come from a man? Did I grow up worshiping a man? And did my worship of a man, did it cause me to naturally pedestalize a man? Was that kind of a side effect? As I naturally pedestalize men because I view them as leaders and, the ones that you're supposed to submit to on a subconscious level? That's what the Decentering Men movement is about. It's supposed to help you question the things that you've been taught, question what you've been told about men, question the romance movies that you grew up watching, question those romantic erotica books you've been reading about men, and question your beliefs on the nature of men. Do most men have certain attributes in common? If so, what are those attributes, and do I like them? Can I spend the rest of my life dealing with or living with a guy who has those attributes? If men didn't exist anymore starting tomorrow, would I still feel valuable? Would I still feel visible? Would I still feel validated? Would my life still have a sense of meaning? And would I still be happy if men did not exist starting tomorrow? Those are the questions you want to ask yourself, because it's going to help you to realize how male-centered you actually are. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.